Pooh Shiesty's daddy been a rat since '09 and his son a mice since 2022.
Pooh Shiesty stepped out of federal prison in October 2025 like a man with a fresh start. New music on deck, money flowing, a whole different lifestyle lined up. It looked like a comeback story everybody could get behind. But just months later, everything flipped fast.
I can tell you this was disguised as a traditional business meeting inside a recording studio, but then it turned into an ambush.
The FBI didn't knock politely. They stormed in, arrested him and his dad. And what showed up in those court papers, especially what his dad allegedly said, is shaking everything people thought they knew.
Week, 9 individuals, including well-known musical artists, kidnapped and robbed at gunpoint numerous victims at a music studio in Dallas, Texas.
This situation isn't just messy, it's explosive. And that so-called meeting, it wasn't really a meeting at all, not even close. Before you can even process what's going on, before you figure out why the internet is going crazy right now, you need the full picture. Because people are confused, shocked, and asking how someone like Pooh Shiesty, who seemed to have everything going his way, ended up right back in federal custody with his own father locked up right next to him.
It's alleged Williams Jr. produced an AK-style pistol.
So let's break this all the way down. This wasn't some random moment where tempers flared and things got out of hand. This wasn't two sides arguing and it just went too far one night. According to what's being said, this was organized, mapped out, and carefully handled step by step.
Forced one of the victims to sign a release from the recording contract at gunpoint.
We're talking 9 people involved, activity across multiple cities, one specific target, and a setup that was never meant to be real from the start. That meeting people keep talking about, it was allegedly just a cover. A move in a bigger plan, something designed to pull everything together at the perfect moment.
Say the group robbed the victims of expensive jewelry and cash.
Nothing about this looks accidental, it looks calculated, and that's exactly why this story is hitting so hard right now. Let's run it back to January 10th, 2026, the exact day this whole situation really started to unfold. 3 music industry professionals boarded a flight to Dallas that afternoon, moving like this was just another business trip on the calendar. Tickets booked, bags packed, everything smooth and routine, just like any serious deal in the industry.
The victims was actually choked by one of the defendants to the point of near unconsciousness.
Because from their point of view, this was simple. Handle business, talk numbers, and get back home. They believed they were walking into a standard sit-down with a rapper who wanted to discuss contract terms. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious. This type of meeting happens all the time in the music world. Deals getting negotiated every single day. No red flags, no warnings, just business as usual. Or at least that's how it looked on the surface. But here's where things start to hit different. One of those 3 men was listed in federal documents only by initials, RD.
Leader of the conspiracy, Lontrell Williams Jr., was on home confinement at the time of the offense.
Quiet, low-key. Almost like they didn't want the name to jump out too fast. But reports quickly connected those initials to Roderick Dellin Davis, known worldwide as Gucci Mane. Now this isn't just any name. This is someone who built 1017 Records from the ground up into a powerhouse in Southern hip-hop. The same person who spotted talent early, took chances, and helped shape careers that would blow up across the industry. And more importantly, he's the one who saw something in a young Memphis rapper and decided to invest in him when others might have passed.
It's alleged for a prior firearms conspiracy charge and conviction out of the Southern District of Florida.
That rapper? The same one who was given an opportunity when he was barely 20 years old. The same one who rose up with that backing. That's Pooh Shiesty. And he's the one who arranged this entire meeting, which makes everything about this situation feel way more serious than it first seemed. Pooh Shiesty had been signed to 1017 Records since around 2021, building real momentum with hit records and a loyal fan base that stood behind him. His name carried weight in the culture, and when he walked out of prison in October 2025, the spotlight was still waiting on him. People were watching closely, ready to see what he would do with that second chance and whether he could take things even further this time.
Monitoring data placing Williams Jr.
But behind the scenes, things weren't smooth at all. He reportedly wasn't happy with his contract and wanted out. And whatever tension had been building over time didn't just fade away. According to federal prosecutors, that situation allegedly escalated into something far more serious, something they describe as one of the most bold and tightly organized armed robbery cases tied to hip-hop in recent years. Now shift to that afternoon in Dallas. The three men arrived at a studio off Dallas Parkway, expecting a normal meeting, nothing out of the ordinary. But when they got there, the place was still closed, so they moved like anyone would. They stepped out, grabbed some liquor, came back, and got comfortable while they waited. No pressure, no fear, just businessmen handling a scheduled meeting in a major city.
The offense location, which would put him in violation of his home detention condition.
There were no warning signs, no reason to feel uneasy, nothing that suggested what was about to happen. They had no idea that by exactly 3:43 p.m., everything around them was about to flip in a way they never saw coming. An ambush. That's the only word that fits this moment. Because while Gucci Mane and his associates were inside that studio expecting a regular business conversation, a whole separate plan was already in motion outside. 9 individuals were moving in, all part of something that had been carefully arranged ahead of time. Some of them didn't just come from nearby. They reportedly traveled all the way from Memphis, driving for hours just to be there at that exact time. That alone tells you this wasn't random, this wasn't rushed, this was coordinated down to the smallest detail, and it was all about to collide in one place.
Monitoring data placing Williams Jr. at the offense location.
They weren't moving randomly or making things up as they went. Every step was lined up ahead of time. Movements were coordinated across multiple cities, timing was tight, and nothing about this looked accidental. This was organized from the ground up, and according to federal prosecutors, the man leading it all was Pooh Shiesty, whose legal name is Lontrell Williams Jr. Prosecutors point to him as the alleged ringleader of the entire operation, the one who set up the meeting, the one who built the setup, the one who, according to the complaint, let frustration over his contract turn into something much bigger. They claim he didn't just want out of a deal. He allegedly chose a path involving weapons and a group of armed individuals inside a Dallas recording studio.
Oh my God. They basically said it had the ankle monitor on at the robbery.
But here's the part that really makes this situation hit different. This wasn't just about him alone. It allegedly involved his own father, Lontrell Williams Sr., also known in music circles as Mob Boss. Authorities claim his father wasn't on the sidelines trying to calm things down. Instead, he was allegedly part of the planning from the very beginning. Reports say he was on the phone with the studio owner multiple times earlier that day, helping lock in and confirm the session. Not as someone trying to stop things, but as someone actively making sure everything stayed on schedule. That detail alone changes how this whole story feels. Surveillance footage reportedly shows him outside the building, then walking in at exactly 3:28 p.m., right before everything was about to unfold. That timing, way too precise to ignore. And then there's the number, 9 individuals involved. That's not random, that's not coincidence, and that's definitely not people just crossing paths at the same time. That's a coordinated group, moving with purpose, all showing up for the same reason at the exact same moment.
Records confirming Williams Sr. rented a vehicle that was used by the group.
This wasn't random chaos. This was a coordinated operation that took real planning, timing, and logistics to pull off. Somebody made a clear decision that a forceful takeover inside a music studio was the way to handle a contract dispute, and that decision changed everything. Once everyone was inside, things moved fast. The victims were separated almost immediately. No hesitation, no confusion. Gucci Mane was taken into the recording room, and in there with him were Pooh Shiesty, his father, and Big 30, Rodney Wright Jr. Meanwhile, the other 2 individuals, identified in the complaint as MM and BP, were kept in the control room under watch by the rest of the group. Then things escalated even further. According to the 32-page federal complaint, Pooh Shiesty allegedly pulled out contract termination papers from a bag and put them in front of Gucci Mane, telling him to sign them right there on the spot.
Media posts by defendants displaying what appears to be stolen property just in the days following the offense.
But Gucci Mane didn't just go along with it.
He said no. He looked over the paperwork, questioned it, and pushed back hard. That refusal, that was the moment everything shifted into a situation nobody could undo. Authorities claim a weapon was then brought into play, described as an AT-style pistol, and it was pointed directly at Gucci Mane as pressure was applied again to sign those documents. That kind of escalation turned the situation into something extremely serious, leaving very little room for choice. Faced with that pressure, with multiple armed individuals inside the building and his associates being held in another room, Gucci Mane ultimately signed the paperwork. The circumstances described in the complaint suggest he did so under intense duress, with no real safe way out in that moment.
Town bus records confirming the travel of multiple defendants from Dallas to Memphis the day after the offense.
And it didn't stop there. After the signature, Pooh Shiesty allegedly handed the contract over to his father to review. His father looked through the documents and pointed out something missing. The date hadn't been added yet. So according to the report, Gucci Mane was then told to include the date as well, finalizing the paperwork right then and there under those conditions. Then things took another serious turn. Big 30 allegedly pulled out his phone and started recording, capturing Gucci Mane on video while he verbally stated that he was releasing Pooh Shiesty from the contract. This wasn't random or emotional. It was being documented on purpose, step by step, so there would be proof on camera of what was happening. That's what makes this situation stand out even more. According to the complaint, this wasn't impulsive behavior. It followed a structure. Each person had a role. Each move had a purpose. One person allegedly held the weapon. His father reviewed the paperwork. Big 30 handled the recording, and the rest of the group controlled the other room at the same time. And while all of this was happening, items were reportedly being taken as well. Rolex watches, jewelry, cash, a Louis Vuitton bag filled with more valuables, AirPods, wallets with Apple AirTags inside, even a 1017 chain and earrings. Nothing was overlooked, nothing left behind. There are also claims from someone speaking on a live stream with supposed inside knowledge, saying the earrings were actually removed directly from Gucci Mane's ears during the incident.
Sound like Gucci cooperated. You sound like the victim. Gucci was a victim and gave his testimony.
That detail alone shows just how intense and up close this situation allegedly became. Meanwhile, in the control room, things were just as serious. One of the individuals, identified as MM, was reportedly choked to the point where he nearly lost consciousness. The federal complaint even includes photos, marks on the neck, scratches, and visible injuries that point to physical force being used inside that studio. And while all of this was unfolding, Big 30 allegedly positioned himself at the studio door, using his own body to block any chance of escape. Nobody was getting in, and nobody was getting out, not until everything they came for was handled. Nobody was leaving until Pooh Shiesty decided everything was finished. That's how controlled the situation allegedly was. At one point, reports say he pressed a firearm directly against another victim's head while directing them toward a specific exit. That kind of pressure changed everything in the room instantly. Victims later told investigators they truly believed they weren't walking out of there at all. Not just threatened, not just shaken up. They thought they were going to be executed right there inside that studio. That level of fear shows just how serious and intense the situation allegedly became. The entire takeover reportedly lasted until around 4:50 p.m., and then the group left the scene. But what happened next made things even worse for them. Within hours that same evening, some of the individuals involved were already posting on social media, showing off jewelry and watches that appeared to match the items taken during the incident.
Hey man, sometimes some of you Negroes do not deserve money and fame.
They were displaying it openly, like there would be no consequences, like no one was tracking what just happened. But that assumption, completely off, because this wasn't something that would go unnoticed, and it definitely wasn't something authorities were going to ignore. Now here's where things take a turn nobody could have predicted. There's often a version of events in cases like this, where details are unclear, where evidence is debated, where a strong defense might find weak spots or inconsistencies. But according to what's been reported, this situation didn't leave much room for that kind of argument. Because on that same day, January 10th, 2026, the same afternoon this entire operation allegedly went down, Pooh Shiesty was wearing a Jeep's ankle monitor. Not just any device,
but one placed by federal authorities as part of his supervised release from a prior conviction. That monitor, it didn't miss anything. It tracked movement, timing, and location with precision, and it became one of the most important pieces of evidence tied to the case. Something that was supposed to keep tabs quietly in the background suddenly turned into a key detail that investigators could not ignore. This wasn't just any situation. He was wearing a device that tracked everything, a Jeep's ankle monitor, logging his exact movements, capturing location data every second, and sending it straight to federal authorities in real time. Every step, every stop, every move recorded without pause. And that's what makes this part so hard to ignore. He allegedly went into this situation while still being actively monitored by the federal system. When Pooh Shiesty was released from prison in October 2025, after serving about 3 years of a 63-month sentence, he didn't walk out completely free. Instead, he went straight into supervised release, and part of that included home confinement in Dallas, Texas. The rules weren't hidden or complicated. They were clear, direct, and strict. Do not commit another federal offense. Do not possess a firearm. Simple instructions, no confusion. But according to prosecutors, both of those rules were allegedly broken at the same time, in the same place, while that ankle monitor was still strapped on and actively transmitting his location. That detail alone changes how this entire case is viewed. At the time of the incident, he was still under home confinement. That's not speculation. That's what officials stated publicly. The United States Attorney for the Northern District of Texas even stood in front of cameras and made that clear during a press conference, saying it directly so everyone could understand the seriousness of it. This wasn't someone unfamiliar with the system either. He had already been through federal prison before, already experienced what it means to lose years of freedom, already seen how detailed and thorough federal investigations can be. He knew how these cases are built step by step.
Shiesty's daddy been a rat since '09 and his son a mice since 2022.
And still, this situation unfolded the way it did. When the Department of Justice finally unsealed the criminal complaint and laid out the evidence during that press conference, the very first detail they highlighted was something so unexpected, so hard to believe that it instantly grabbed attention everywhere. His ankle monitor data. That alone changed everything. The same device the federal government placed on him to track every move as part of his release conditions reportedly showed Pooh Shiesty at the exact address of that Dallas studio at the exact time the armed incident was happening. Think about that for a second. There was no need for anyone to speak up, no need for someone to cooperate or point fingers. According to what's been presented, the tracking device told the story on its own. It was already there, logging everything in real time and sending it straight back to authorities the entire time. When clips started spreading online of the U.S. attorney reading that evidence out loud, people didn't even need an explanation. The reaction said it all. The moment everyone heard he had the ankle monitor on at the robbery, it hit differently. That single detail stood out more than anything else, because this wasn't someone new to the system. This was someone who had already served time in federal prison, who had seen how cases come together, who understood how strong federal evidence can be when it stacks up. And still, according to the allegations, he walked into a situation like this while wearing a live Jeep's tracker. But that ankle monitor, that was just the beginning. The evidence list didn't stop there, not even close. Investigators also pointed to cell phone records and license plate reader data that reportedly tracked the movement of multiple individuals traveling from Memphis all the way to Dallas. Every move mapped out, where the phones were, when they moved, the exact routes taken. Tower pings, plate scans, timestamps, everything lined up piece by piece. And then there's another major detail that adds even more weight. Lontrell Williams Sr., who is now facing charges as a co-conspirator, allegedly rented the vehicle used for that trip. Records show his name on a Hertz rental agreement for a white Buick Enclave, the same vehicle authorities say was used to bring the group from Memphis to Dallas. That's not a small detail. That points directly to planning. According to the allegations, this wasn't someone randomly showing up at the scene. It suggests coordination ahead of time, setting up transportation, making sure everything was in place before anyone even arrived. 9 individuals, 1 vehicle, crossing state lines with a purpose. That's how prosecutors are framing it. And when you stack that with the digital trail, the timing, and everything else already laid out, it starts to paint a very detailed picture of how this situation allegedly came together step by step.
Gucci came home and that motivated me too, because I took notes from there.
And it didn't stop there. There was surveillance footage everywhere. The studio itself had cameras running. A nearby Staples store had cameras. And even the hotel where several of the individuals stayed after the incident had cameras. Footage from all 3 locations was reportedly collected and reviewed by federal investigators, giving them multiple angles, clear timelines, and visual confirmation of movements. Every step was being tracked in some form. Every timestamp, every entry, every exit. It was all captured and now sits documented inside the case files. Then comes the forensic side, and this part is just as serious. Latent fingerprints recovered from inside the studio were reportedly matched to at least 2 of the defendants. That means physical evidence, something that can't be explained away easily, placing specific individuals directly inside that exact space. And then things take another turn. Within hours of leaving the studio, some of the individuals allegedly posted photos on social media showing jewelry and items believed to be taken during the incident. Not anonymously, not hidden, posted on verified accounts with their names attached. Those same posts, screenshots of them are now included as evidence in the federal complaint. That means what was shared online didn't just disappear, it became part of the case itself. Images, timestamps, accounts, all preserved and presented. Then there's the travel trail back home. Records show that some of the group allegedly took a Greyhound bus from Dallas back to Memphis the very next morning. Those tickets weren't invisible. They were tracked, documented, and later subpoenaed as part of the investigation. So when you line everything up, the surveillance footage, the fingerprints, the social media posts, the travel records, it starts to look like a case built piece by piece with evidence coming from every direction. And this is where the public conversation started to shift, because once all of this information came out, people online began asking the same question they always ask: who said something? But here's the reality of it. According to reports, one of the primary victims, Gucci Mane, identified Pooh Shiesty, his father, and Big 30 by name, by appearance, and even through their verified social media accounts during the investigation. That's not speculation. That's what a victim does when reporting a crime. That's cooperation as part of an investigation into something that allegedly happened directly to them. And that detail adds another layer to how this entire case is being understood. That's the kind of situation where someone is going to speak up. When a weapon is pointed at them and personal items are taken, that's not something people stay quiet about. But outside of the legal world, conversations don't always follow those same rules, and that's where things started to get complicated. Gucci Mane reportedly responded to the online talk directly, going on social media and pushing back against claims that he cooperated, while making it clear he still carried the same energy people have always known him for. Anyone familiar with his history knows he doesn't speak lightly. When he says something, there's intention behind it.
Then, Lil Woody stepped in and broke the situation down in a way that hit a lot of people.
Came home, bro, and did NBA YoungBoy numbers.
He pointed out how this all unfolded after he came home, dropped music, and quickly got attention again. The numbers were there, the conversation was there, and people were genuinely supporting the comeback. There were doubts at first, people saying that First Day Out wouldn't perform, but that didn't hold up. The momentum was real, the spotlight was back, and there was a clear lane open for him to take things even further. And that's what makes this part stand out the most, because having opportunity, money, and support only goes so far if the mindset doesn't shift with it.
He put out, they said he was gonna flop, they went to the top.
You can have everything lined up perfectly, but if the decisions don't match the moment, nothing about that success is guaranteed to last. That idea, the mindset, is what people keep coming back to when they talk about this situation, because it's not just about what was available, it's about what was done with it. Then things took another sharp turn.
All the cars, the lifestyle, everything he dreamed of having, but he didn't change his mindset.
The morning after the arrests, April 2nd, 2026, While the news was still spreading and people were still trying to understand how Pooh Shiesty ended up back in federal custody, this time alongside his own father, something else happened that grabbed everyone's attention. Wack 100 made a move that immediately shifted the conversation and had people across the internet reacting all at once. He called in to DJ Academic's live stream while it was already packed, over 15,000 people watching live at that exact moment. And right away, Wack 100 made it clear he had been holding on to something serious for about 18 months, just waiting for the right time to bring it out.
One and did some stupid cause him go back to jail.
According to him, that moment had finally arrived. With Pooh Shiesty and his father both sitting in federal custody, facing major charges tied to the same case, Wack decided this was the time to put everything on the table. Then it got even more intense. Live on stream in real time, he sent over paperwork for everyone to see. No delay, no behind the scenes. This was happening right in front of thousands of viewers watching closely. Wack 100 claimed those documents were a federal memorandum of plea agreement dated April 15, 2009.
Pride and ego is our main enemy.
And according to what he said, that paperwork showed that Lontrell Williams Sr., also known as Mob Boss and Pooh Shiesty's father, had agreed to provide substantial assistance to the federal government in exchange for a reduced sentence under U.S. Sentencing Guidelines 5.1.1. That specific clause carries serious weight, especially in street conversations, where it gets labeled in a very direct way. And Wack 100 didn't soften how he presented it. He spoke on it clearly, with no hesitation and no extra wording. He went further, saying this alleged cooperation happened back in 2009 when Pooh Shiesty was still a kid, around 8 or 9 years old. That detail added another layer to the conversation because it shifted attention toward the environment he grew up in, at least based on those claims.
But Wack 100 didn't stop there. He extended the accusation directly toward Pooh Shiesty himself, claiming that he had been cooperating since 2022, tied to his federal firearms conspiracy case out of the Southern District of Florida. That's the same case where Pooh Shiesty pleaded guilty to 1 count, while other more serious charges were dropped, and he received a sentence that came in lower than what prosecutors originally pushed for. During the stream, DJ Academics reportedly pulled up federal case files live and reviewed them on the spot, saying the documents appeared legitimate based on what he was seeing. That moment sent the conversation into another level entirely, with thousands of viewers watching everything unfold in real time. Those 2 words, "looked legit," that was all it took. The clip spread fast, hitting every major platform within hours. Instagram, Facebook, X, YouTube, everywhere you looked, people were reacting, debating, picking sides, and trying to figure out what was real. But this is where things need to slow down for a second, because not everything being said carries the same weight. In a story this loud, facts and claims can get mixed together quickly, and if you don't separate them, everything starts to sound the same when it's not. Here's what's important to understand. Wack 100 has made these same accusations before. This didn't just start now. He's been saying similar things going all the way back to at least February 2022. So none of this is brand new coming from him. And every single time those claims have come up, Pooh Shiesty's attorney, Bradford Cohen, has responded the same way, firm and direct. He has consistently denied everything, calling the allegations 100% fake news, idiotic, and completely untrue. His position hasn't changed at all, not once. According to the defense, there was no cooperation agreement, no profit sessions, no information shared with federal prosecutors at any point. They've stood on that from the beginning and continue to stand on it now. They also pointed back to the 2021 firearms case, explaining that their entire argument was based on self-defense, that the situation escalated after an alleged attempt to rob Pooh Shiesty and his group first. That's the angle they used in court. As for the 63-month sentence that people keep questioning, the defense says that came from legal strategy, evidence, and arguments, not from any kind of cooperation deal. Then in January 2026, just weeks before the Dallas situation reportedly took place, Pooh Shiesty himself posted court documents on Instagram. In that post, he denied any cooperation and made it clear where he stood, even referencing a code of silence and putting his public reputation behind that statement. And that's where things get even more complicated, because as of April 3, 2026, no major mainstream outlet, whether it's Associated Press, Rolling Stone, XXL, or others, has independently confirmed the specific 2009 paperwork claims being pushed by Wack 100. There is mention of a 2009 Tennessee state-level case connected to Lontrell Williams Sr., but that case does not include any confirmed reference to federal cooperation or a 5K1.1 agreement.
Switched it up, how he toned up, you know, got fit, got his mind healthy, like took notes in there every way.
And here's another key detail. Federal 5K1.1 documents are often sealed, meaning they're not publicly available unless officially released. So without that confirmation, a lot of what's being discussed online remains unverified claims rather than established facts. That distinction right there, it matters more than anything else in a situation this serious. So as it stands right now, these are still allegations. Big ones, loud ones, impossible to ignore ones, but still unverified allegations. And that distinction matters, even with all the noise surrounding this situation. But even if you set all of that aside for a moment, there's something at the center of this story that stands out in a way that's hard to overlook. The irony is heavy, and it hits even harder when you go back and look at what was said not too long ago. When Pooh Shiesty walked out of federal prison in October 2025, he sat down for a major interview with XXL and spoke openly about Gucci Mane. He talked about watching Gucci's journey, how he came home from prison and completely turned his life around. He described how Gucci got disciplined, focused on his health, sharpened his mindset, stayed consistent, and avoided the situations that used to pull him off track. He painted that picture clearly as someone who didn't just come home, but came back better and more focused than ever. He even said Gucci woke up for real while he was locked up and truly changed. And more than that, he said that transformation had an impact on him personally, that it made him want to move different, think different, and make better decisions moving forward. In that interview, Gucci wasn't just another artist. He was described as a blueprint, a real example of what it looks like to leave prison behind and build something solid without going back. And that's what makes what's being alleged now feel so shocking, because within just a few months of saying all of that, prosecutors claim he was involved in a situation inside a Dallas recording studio where a weapon was pointed at the very same person he once said inspired him, the same Gucci Mane he spoke about with respect, the same figure he said influenced his mindset. That connection is what people keep coming back to. It's a contrast that feels almost unreal, but it's now part of how this entire story is being viewed. And when you look at it from that angle, it doesn't feel like something written for drama. It feels like real life unfolding in a way that's difficult to process. Now, shifting to where things actually stand legally. As of April 3, 2026, this case is still in the early stages. The 32-page criminal complaint was officially filed on March 30th and then unsealed on April 2nd. At this point, no trial date has been announced, and no pleas have been entered by the defendants. Legally, everyone involved is presumed innocent. That standard still applies, and it's important to keep that in mind as the case develops. But at the same time, the evidence already outlined in that complaint is being described as extensive, with multiple layers that investigators are relying on as this situation continues to unfold. The evidence stack in this case is heavy, and it keeps piling up. We're talking ankle monitor data, cell phone records, license plate readers, and even a rental car agreement with the father's name attached. Add in surveillance footage from 3 different locations, fingerprints recovered from inside the studio, and social media posts where items believed to be taken were shown publicly.
Shiesty is top 10 bag fumblers in the rap game. Every time this man gets a chance, he fumbles the bag.
It doesn't stop there. Investigators also have Greyhound bus records showing how some of the group allegedly traveled back home, along with victim identifications from people who knew the defendants personally, by face, by name, and even through their verified Instagram accounts. This isn't just one piece of evidence, it's layers on top of layers. Ryan Bowl made it clear during the April 2nd press conference, each defendant could be facing up to life in prison under federal kidnapping laws. That alone raises the stakes, but in Pooh Shiesty's case, there's even more pressure because this allegedly happened while he was still under federal supervised release. That detail matters in a big way. Judges take that seriously because it suggests prior consequences didn't change behavior, and that can increase how severe sentencing becomes if convictions happen. Then there's the raid. Early in the morning on April 1st, 2026, around 6 a.m., federal agents moved in on a family home in Cordova. Reports say flashbangs were used to enter, and agents stayed inside for hours collecting evidence. They removed computers, documents, and multiple bags of materials. Every vehicle on the property was searched thoroughly. Whatever investigators were looking for, they believe they found it, and now it's all sitting in a federal evidence room in the Northern District of Texas, waiting for the next step in court. And right at the center of all this, a father and son, both in custody, both facing serious federal charges, both potentially looking at life sentences. Prosecutors allege the father helped set key parts of this in motion, renting the vehicle, confirming the studio booking, being present inside, and even reviewing the paperwork involved. Now look at the timeline again, because this part stands out the most. Pooh Shiesty was released in October 2025, and his supervised release wasn't even set to end until April 11, 2026. That means he was just months away from being completely free. No ankle monitor, no restrictions, no oversight. Everything was right there. Freedom, a career, a fan base ready to support him again. All he had to do was stay on track and wait it out. But according to the allegations, instead of reaching that finish line, he stepped into a situation that could now define everything moving forward. And not alone, bringing his father into it, making it even more complicated and serious. Cases like this don't move fast. With 9 defendants, multiple locations, and this much evidence, it could take a long time before everything plays out in court, possibly a year or more. But many are already pointing to one moment that may shape the entire outcome, the second that ankle monitor placed him at that Dallas studio on January 10, 2026. From there, everything else started to connect piece by piece. Now the only real question left is how this all unfolds from here, and how it ultimately ends. If you want more breakdowns like this, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment with your thoughts. This story is far from over.